This is Land of Havilah, Ezekiel 30. The prophecy against Egypt continues. Verse 1. Yahweh's word came again to me, saying, Son of man, prophesy, and say, Thus says the Lord Yahweh, Wail, alas, for the day is near, even Yahweh's day is near. It will be a day of clouds, a time of the nations. A sword will come on Egypt, and anguish will be in Ethiopia when the slain fall in Egypt. They take away her multitude, and her foundations are broken down. Ethiopia, Put, Lud, all the mixed people, Cub, and the children of the land that is allied with them will fall with them by the sword. Yahweh says, They also who uphold Egypt will fall. The pride of her power will come down. They will fall by the sword in it from the tower of Sevenah, says the Lord Yahweh. They will be desolate in the middle of the countries that are desolate. Her cities will be among the cities that are wasted. They will know that I am Yahweh when I have set a fire in Egypt, and all her helpers are destroyed. In that day messengers will go out from before me in ships to make the careless Ethiopians afraid. There will be anguish on them as in the day of Egypt, for behold, it comes. Comment in verses 1 to 9, a few things tip us off that this is an end-time similitude. There's no mention of a particular invader, but rather in verse 3 it's Yahweh's day, and in verse 9 Yahweh says, in that day, which often refers to the end times. And in verse 3 it's not just Egypt being attacked, destroyed, and terrified. It's a, quote, time of the nations, end quote. And in verse 8, all Egypt's helpers will be destroyed. Given the terror and devastation of it, and the fact that Yahweh is on the attack, is similar to what Yahweh will do at the end of the tribulation to the Antichrist worldwide kingdom. Egypt is proud in verse 6, as the Antichrist will be proud, Daniel 7:8. In terms of ancient fulfillment, as we said, Nebuchadnezzar attacked Egypt shortly after this prophecy, then Cambyses II attacked and virtually annihilated Egypt. Now Yahweh will speak of Nebuchadnezzar and others and what they'll do to Egypt. Verse 10. Thus says the Lord Yahweh, I'll also make the multitude of Egypt to cease by the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. He and his people with him, the terrible of the nations, will be brought in to destroy the land. They'll draw their swords against Egypt and fill the land with the slain. I'll make the rivers dry and will sell the land into the hand of evil men. I'll make the land desolate and all that is therein by the hand of strangers. I, Yahweh, have spoken it. Thus says the Lord Yahweh, I will also destroy the idols, and I will cause the images to cease from Memphis. There will be no more a prince from the land of Egypt. I'll put a fear in the land of Egypt. Comment, most of Nebuchadnezzar's expeditions are well documented by secular records of the time, but his expedition into Egypt, prophesied here and fulfilled around 570, is an exception. There's mention of it in one Babylonian record and one Egyptian record, but the records lack detail. He definitely invaded. The details in verses 10 and 11 are that Nebuchadnezzar will come to Egypt with his allies, the terrible of the nations, fill the land with the slain, and destroy the land. In verse 12, he'll make the rivers dry, the rivers referring to the splintering of the Nile River as it enters the delta. Making the river dry is a metaphor for ruining the country. In verse 7, the evil men and strangers who desolate the land could be Nebuchadnezzar's men or Cambyses' men who came afterward. Cambyses' destruction is better documented than Nebuchadnezzar's. In verse 13, Nebuchadnezzar will destroy the idols and images of Egypt. Ezekiel's contemporary, Jeremiah, prophesied the same. He said Nebuchadnezzar would burn the Egyptian gods, carry the gods away as booty, and burn their temples, Jeremiah 43, 8-13. In verse 13, there will be no more a prince from the land of Egypt. As we said in the last episode, Egypt ceased to be an independent country after Cambyses invaded, and it was thereafter Egypt was a province of the Persians, Greeks, and Romans. There wasn't a native pharaoh for another 900 years. We don't know when Ezekiel passed away, but if he lived to see the prophecy fulfilled in 522 of no more prince from the land of Egypt, he would have been very, very old by that time. Let's just say this is an impressive prophecy that Ezekiel couldn't have written after the fact. But for Yahweh, who couldn't have known the prophecy would hold true for 900 years. Now, speaking of various cities and regions in Egypt, Yahweh will do the following, verse 14. I will make Pathros desolate, and will set a fire in Zoan, and will execute judgments on No. I will pour my wrath on Sin, the stronghold of Egypt. I'll cut off the multitude of No. I'll set a fire in Egypt. Sin will be in great anguish. No will be broken up. Memphis will have adversaries in the daytime. The young men of Aven and of Pibeseth will fall by the sword. They will go into captivity. At Tahaphnehes also the day will withdraw itself, when I break the yokes of Egypt there. The pride of her power will cease in her. As for her, a cloud will cover her, and her daughters will go into captivity. Thus I will execute judgments on Egypt. They will know that I am Yahweh. Comment in verses 14 to 17, Pathros is the southern region of Egypt, and the rest of the locations are cities. In those places, Yahweh will pour out desolation, fire, judgments, wrath, death, anguish, sword, and captivity. Jeremiah also said there will be death and captivity by Nebuchadnezzar, chapters 43 and 46. In verse 18, Yahweh will break the yoke of Egypt at Tahaphnehes. It so happens that when Jeremiah and some of his fellow Judeans left Judah, they wound up in Tahaphnehes doing brickwork on a pavilion in front of Pharaoh's house there. Jeremiah 43, 8-10. They wore the Egyptian yoke. So it's interesting that Yahweh says he'll break the yoke specifically where Jeremiah would be wearing it at Tahaphnehes. Now going to a date that corresponds to April 29, 587 BC, verse 20. In the 11th year, in the first month, in the 7th day of the month, Yahweh's word came to me, saying, Son of man, I have broken the arm of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Behold, it has not been bound up, to apply medicines, to put a bandage, to bind it, that it become strong to hold the sword. Therefore, thus says the Lord Yahweh, Behold, I am against Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and will break his arms, the strong arm, and that which was broken. I will cause the sword to fall out of his hand. Comment in verses 20 to 22, Yahweh will injure Pharaoh's arm so that he won't be able to wield the sword, which means Yahweh will weaken Pharaoh militarily. Verse 23. I will scatter the Egyptians among the nations and will disperse them through the countries. I will strengthen the arms of the king of Babylon and put my sword in his hand, but I'll break the arms of Pharaoh, and he'll groan before the king of Babylon with the groaning of a mortally wounded man. I will hold up the arms of the king of Babylon, and the arms of Pharaoh will fall down. Then they will know that I am Yahweh when I put my sword into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he stretches it out on the land of Egypt. I will scatter the Egyptians among the nations and disperse them through the countries. Then they will know that I am Yahweh. Comment in verse 13, Yahweh will scatter the Egyptians among the nations. 65 years after this prophecy, secular history confirms Cambyses II deported thousands of captives. There's no outside statement of how many Nebuchadnezzar took. In verses 24 and 25, Yahweh will strengthen the arms of Nebuchadnezzar to wield the sword and make Pharaoh groan like a mortally wounded man. So Yahweh doesn't say Nebuchadnezzar will kill Pharaoh, only that he'll severely weaken him. The secular record is consistent with that. It indicates that Pharaoh survived Nebuchadnezzar's invasion and kept ruling. And again, in verse 26, Yahweh will scatter Egyptians among the nations, those nations being the nations of Nebuchadnezzar's and Cambyses' empires, and probably Egyptians took flight to other nations. Ezekiel 31 is next.